can't. It doesn't really happen. It's hard to happen. And
so now they change back again. So
yeah,
they
now
just
they-
keep flip-flopping.
now they change back again. Oh, I wonder if the whole thing's getting out there. Huh. Oh, that's right. I forgot. Good delay, I guess. What a nightmare.
Well, when they first came up with mail-in ballot, that was obviously wide open for fraud.
Well, then in California, there's ballot harvesting, which, and the people go around to people's homes and have you turned in your ballot? And if you haven't, well, then you have a lady in Oregon who's not a citizen. She's married to a citizen, got her driver's license, and then Oregon started sending her ballots. She's been trying for years to get off, and she can't get off. She can't get them to stop. And she won't vote because she knows it's illegal. She's not a
Yeah.
citizen. But that's you knew that was going to happen when they started all this automatic registering to
Oh,
vote
yeah.
nonsense.
You know, that's total nonsense.
We might need to turn the air down for Becky if she's here, or somebody. It was hot in here at 6 this afternoon.
Yeah, I'm sure we get a lot in here. I was thinking this afternoon, it might be soon that I'll have to hook up my evaporative cooler.
Yeah. Wow.
Howdy.
Look who drugged themselves in.
The babies are here.
What's that?
Babies are here.
The babies are here? Which babies? Oh, that's right. Bridget's here.
They're just trying to get my dad out the door.
She's what?
They're trying to get my dad out the door.
What's wrong with him?
So,
Hello, Becky. Well, are the babies as cute in person as they are on the telephone? Okay.
they're pretty cute.
How was your camping trip, Riley?
It was good. It
Good?
was a lot of fun. It was a little chilly up there.
It was a little chilly.
It was a lot of fun. They got a cave system over there, and there's like columns of ice that are still frozen in the cave entrance. It's really cool. Definitely should have remembered my knee pads though, 'cause you gotta crawl through a bunch of
Oh, yeah.
small spaces.
Oh, we don't do that.
Definitely, I'm not about to
Marv will do that, but I don't do that.
Not Marv. He don't like caves or
Oh,
tight places.
He crawled up in the house pretty good.
He what?
Up under my house when he was working on the bathroom faucet. Found the turn off.
Oh, Marv?
Yeah.
He just doesn't like tight places.
I don't. You won't
I
get me
don't.
in one. I don't do caves.
I don't. It's freaky going in there,
Yeah,
but it's really cool.
yeah.
Man, it's a workout to get back out of there. The hill going down into it is like that. So the walk in, it's really nice as long as you're not slipping and sliding.
Yeah.
But the walk out feels like 10 miles longer.
Oh, wow. No, I don't need to do that.
Did your sister and the babies get here?
No, they're coming.
They're not here.
Yeah, it's a little loud.
How are you doing, Bear?
Oh, I'm
Did you fly
all,
that plane today?
yeah, I did. I
Did you
flew.
crash it?
No, didn't crash anything. I didn't fly the new one yet. No, we're not
Oh,
ready
you
for
big
that.
Sissy.
I am.
What'd you use a building if you ain't gonna fly it?
Well, I'll fly it, but I've got to get my flying skills back up to speed. I haven't flown much. This is the second time this year.
Too
It's like
windy.
falling off a bike.
Oh, yeah.
You never forget how.
Yeah. You know what?
Yeah, that's the thing.
How many holes in
Crashing,
one
that's
did you
what it's
get?
like.
Huh?
How many holes in one did you get in your lifetime?
2.
I thought it's like falling off a bike. Just once you
Well,
do it, you
I've
should
come
be able
close
to.
many times.
Once you do it, shouldn't you repeat it lots of times?
How many of you have?
One, but
I seen it.
yeah.
That's why you quit playing with it.
That's right. I had
Yeah,
my
you got
hole
his
in one.
hole
I'm
in
done. I'm perfect. I'm out of here.
Text me and say, Dad called and said.
No, that P-51 big
He was so excited.
cool one. That one's not gonna. That's so fast. And I was flying all of them faster than I normally do,
Yeah.
so I can get used to the speed. But it was a good morning to fly.
It was.
Very good
Roger
morning.
Padilla says, I wonder if old Bear's got that 100-mile-an-hour plane down. And I says, he said he was gonna try to do
Well, I
it.
guess.
No, not the 100, not yet.
But if you golfed, you would.
We'll have to be flying regular for a few weeks.
Okay.
And then we'll take a shot at it on a nice day like this one.
Well, I broke down one time. I'm not into puzzles. I broke down one time when I was working as a projectionist. Somebody, regular projectionist, a place that I came in once a week, had a Rubik's Cube there. So I worked on it until I got it done. I said, okay, I got it. I don't have to mess with this again.
Yeah.
I just left it for him, all done.
I need to get teeth cleaned, and it's a month and a half to get in. I went up because I've been having some sore teeth and had him do an exam, and fortunately nothing needs to be pulled. There's no infection, but they need the deep root cleaning. But can't get in for a month and a half.
Isn't that something? Well, we've been off for 3 months.
And the VA hasn't opened the clinic up yet. I talked to Dr. Safe yesterday. He said, we're not open yet.
That one case here 3 months ago just put this county on lockdown. Terrible.
Well, that was the VA's.
Oh, that's down VA.
VA in Grand Junction. They haven't opened that up yet. Well, he made it, Dixie, he made it on time.
There's old Bob. He's in his element now. Hi, Miss Emma. There's Harry you. You're as pretty as ever. Hello, Harry.
Hello.
Good. There's all Kevin, yeah. How's everything?
It's Rachel.
How you feel there, Bob?
I want mom.
Oh, sure, Granny. Way to go.
We were hugging Hunter's mom and he didn't like it.
Oh. Is that what that was?
He was looking at us like, wow.
How are you, Victor? You wanna talk about it? I don't
What
blame
are
you.
you talking about?
Say, who are all these strange people?
They don't even look like brother and sister, do they?
Their baby pictures look similar, I think.
Yeah,
Just
faces
looking at
and
them,
stuff, but coloring,
yeah.
blue eyes, blonde hair, brown eyes, brown hair.
Huskies are right.
Oh, you want? You gonna sing? Oh, my.
Are there any new announcements? Or old announcements?
Whether these kids getting here safe and sound,
Yeah, well, I think we saw that.
it's an announcement.
It's an announcement. Okay, number 496. First, second, and last verses.
This world is not my home, I'm just a passing through. My treasures are laid up somewhere beyond the blue. The angels beckon me from heaven's open door, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. Oh Lord, you know I have no friend like you. If heaven's not my home, then Lord, what will I do? The angels beckon me from heaven's open door, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. They're all expecting me, and that's one thing I know. My Savior pardoned me, and now I onward go. I know He'll take me through, though I am weak and poor, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. Oh Lord, you know I have no friend like you. If heaven's not my home, then Lord, what will I do? The angels beckon me from heaven's open door, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. Just up in glory land we'll live eternally. The saints on every hand are shouting victory. Their song of sweetest praise ripped back from heaven's shore, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. Oh Lord, you know I have no friend like you. If heaven's not my home, then Lord, what will I do? The angels beckon me from heaven's open door, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore.
Number 567.
There's a great day coming, a great day coming, there's a great day coming by and by, when the saints and the sinners shall be parted right and left. Are you ready for that day to come? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready for the judgment day? Are you ready? Are you ready for the judgment day? There's a bright day coming, a bright day coming, there's a bright day coming by and by. But its brightness shall only come to them that love the Lord. Are you ready for that day to come? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready for the judgment day? Are you ready? Are you ready for the judgment day? There's a sad day coming, a sad day coming, there's a sad day coming by and by, when the sinner shall hear his doom depart. I know ye not. Are you ready for that day to come? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready for the judgment day. Are you ready? Are you ready for the judgment day?
Number 17.
Hallelujah, praise Jehovah, from the heavens praise his name. Praise Jehovah in the highest, all his angels praise proclaim. All his hosts together praise him. Sun and moon and stars on high, praise him, O ye heaven of heavens, and ye floods above the sky. Let them praises give Jehovah, for his name alone is high, and his glory is exalted, and his glory is exalted, and his glory is exalted, far above the earth and sky. Let them praises give Jehovah, they were made at his command. Then forever he established, his decree shall ever stand. From the earth, oh, praise Jehovah, all ye floods, ye dragons all, fire and hail and snow and vapors, stormy winds that hear him call. Let them praises give Jehovah, for his name alone is high, and his glory is exalted, and his glory is exalted, and his glory is exalted, far above the earth and sky. All ye fruitful trees and cedars, all ye hills and mountains high, creeping things and beasts and cattle, birds that in the heavens fly, kings of earth and all ye people, princes, raiders, judges, praise his name, young men and maidens, aged men and children small. Let them praises give Jehovah, for his name alone is high, and his glory is exalted, and his glory is exalted, and his glory is exalted, far above the earth and sky.
Mark number 591 is the song for after the lesson.
You might enjoy this, Dixie. Your own.
He's trying to check everything out on the
Yeah,
way
he
there.
is.
Trying to climb up in the front pew now. Dixie, they're smaller than you. You ain't got any control.
And the two banks are traveling.
What's up there too?
They're supposed to be.
Really? You can sit over here if you want.
No, stay over where you're at.
Oh, yeah, I guess because she'll be one
You probably got the wrong or something. Got it
Maybe.
down there.
Vernal.
Probably caught on camera, but I don't know.
Let's pray. Almighty God, our Holy Father, we come before you, Lord, asking your help as we study your word, in need of your wisdom to understand what it is you want us to know. We thank you so much for that word and for this opportunity to study, as well as for all the other blessings you give us each and every day to sustain our lives. Grateful for the safe journey of Bridget and the kids. We pray for the safety of the Newbanks as they're traveling the next 9 days. We thank you, Lord, for your Son Jesus, the blood that he was willing to shed for our sins. We do ask forgiveness and we pray in his name. Amen. Mark chapter 5.
For me,
Mark,
they're going up to see their parents. Dakota's one.
Oh, they're right.
they're on a driving trip. Tyler's going to need 9 days vacation when he gets back to recover. So, Mark chapter 5. Jesus raises the daughter of Jairus. Am I correct?
Verse 21.
20, we'll be at verse 21. I don't know why I broke my verses down in my copy, but I did. So we're going to need somebody, or somebodies, Matthew 9, 18 through 19, and then 23 and 26. Terry?
Into Matthew.
Oh, Terry's got Matthew. Luke 8, 40 through 42, and 49 to 56.
Give me Matthew again.
Matthew 9, 18 and 19,
Okay.
and then 23 through 26.
Okay.
These get broken up because you have Jesus heads out to go heal Jairus' daughter, and then the woman, crowds are pressing him, and the woman touches his garment, and then we get back to the going to heal, raise Jairus' daughter.
Daughter is at the point of death. Please come and lay your hands on her so that she will get well and live.
And then 35 through 43.
While he was still speaking, they came from the house of the synagogue official, saying, "Your daughter has died. Why trouble the teacher anymore?" But Jesus, overhearing what was being spoken, said to the synagogue official, "Do not be afraid any longer, only believe." And he allowed no one to accompany him except Peter and James and John, the brother of James. They came to the house of the synagogue official, and he saw a commotion and people loudly weeping and wailing. And entering in, he said to them, "Why make a commotion and weep? The child has not died, but is asleep." They began laughing at him, but putting them all out, he took along the child's father and mother and his own companions and entered the room where the child was. Taking the child by the hand, he said to her,
Talitha come.
Which translated means, "Little girl, I say to you, get up." Immediately the girl got up and began to walk, for she was 12 years old. And immediately they were completely astounded. And he gave them strict orders that no one should know about this. And he said that something should
Matthew 9, verse 18 and 19, and then 23 through 26. Gary?
While he was saying these things to them, a synagogue official came and bowed down before him and said, "My daughter has just died, but come and lay your hands on her, and she will live." Jesus got up and began to follow him, and so did his disciples. When Jesus came into the official's house and saw the flute players and the crowd in noisy disorder, he said, "Leave, for the girl has not died, but is asleep." And they began laughing at him. But when the crowd had been sent out, he entered and took her by the hand, and the girl got up. The news spread throughout all the land.
Luke 8, 40 through 40 and 42. Brent?
And it came to pass that when Jesus was returned, the people gladly received him, for they were all waiting for him. And behold, there came a man named Jairus, and he was a ruler of the synagogue. And he fell down at Jesus' feet and besought him that he would come into his house. For he had one only daughter, about 12 years of age, and she lay dying. But as he went, the people thronged him.
And Shauna 49 through 56.
While Jesus was still speaking, someone came from the house of Jairus, the synagogue ruler. "Your daughter is dead," he said. "Don't bother the teacher anymore." Hearing this, Jesus said to Jairus, "Don't be afraid, just believe and she will be healed." When he arrived at the house of Jairus, he did not let anyone go in with him except Peter, John, and James, and the child's father and mother. Meanwhile, all the people were wailing and mourning before her. "Stop wailing," Jesus said. "She is not dead, but asleep." They laughed at him, knowing that she was dead. But he took her by the hand and said, "My child, get up." Her spirit returned, and at once she stood up. Then Jesus told them to give her something to eat. Her parents were astonished, but he ordered them not to tell anyone what had happened.
Comments? Thoughts?
Just another miracle.
Just another miracle. Yeah.
But he didn't want nobody knowing about this.
And why would that be? Maybe. We're not directly told. We have to suppose when we come up with an answer for it. Why would he not want this one spread around? Yeah.
Synagogue official.
Yeah. This is a synagogue official, which if it gets spread quickly, you'll get back to those that don't need to hear it. It's not his time. Whereas the demons that he cast out recently, and he told the fellow, go tell everybody, that was in a Gentile area. Not a lot of threat in that regard. What about the conflict between Jesus and the people who laughed at him? He said she's just asleep. They said he's dead.
He knows.
But they thought they knew that she was dead. I mean, so they were like, "Oh, you're wrong. She's dead. We've seen dead before."
Just more than Jews that didn't believe he was the Messiah, and he was doing miracles everywhere.
Well, there's one passage, there was one little line that was read by Shauna that would indicate that she was actually dead. Now, to Jesus, that would be asleep. He said the same thing about Lazarus.
Yeah.
Our friend Lazarus is asleep or is dead. And he uses those terms interchangeably because to him, they are asleep. To us, they would be dead. But in the verses Shauna read, there was a last little line in there that said the spirit returned to her. So that would sure indicate from Luke's record that the spirit had left the body, and from our point of view, dead. And Jesus's too. But for Jesus, it's not a thing because he's who he is, and he's going to call in the spirit to come back.
So is this early in his ministry?
No,
Real early?
we're not real early now. We're getting.
Well,
remember
because
this?
these people had never heard of Jesus doing any miracles. That's why they laughed at him.
Yeah, that. I think that the people that were there, all the celebration type. I mean, you had flute players, didn't you? And you had singers. Remember, the Jews were notorious that when someone died, the professional singers and mourners would show up. That's probably that group of people. Now, Jairus, is that?
Jairus.
Jairus.
What'd you say, Becky?
Jairus.
Jairus?
No I.
No.
U.S. Just U.S.
Just US, yeah.
Jairus.
Jairus.
No I? Eyesight?
The I goes with the A, not
Yeah,
after.
with air. A-I-R.
Yeah.
Air. Jairus.
Not Jairus.
Jairus. Okay, thank you.
Jairus.
I call him Jairus.
Well, with the AI, it's gotta be.
What's that?
He
different.
doesn't care, it's okay.
Yeah, he doesn't care. What was I gonna say? I forgot already.
Jairus.
Jairus, yeah. He's taken up a lot of space in my memories there, memory banks. What I was going to say is Jairus, he was really fully convinced Jesus could do this.
Yeah.
He went looking for him, and he's the leader of the synagogue, which is, of course, your daughter is dying. And that does, it probably takes you to a point where I don't care, I'm a Pharisee or a Sadducee or what, I've heard this man can heal her, and I don't got any hope for her, and nobody else does, so I'm going. He had heard about him for sure. The crowds are pressing against him because we still have to cover the woman who touches his garment and is healed just from touching his garment, which is incredible faith. So I would think that the crowds who laughed at him are probably the professional mourners who probably come from town somewhere. And Terry, this is probably more middle of his work right now. You have to remember that Mark is moving pretty fast. We covered a year in the first couple chapters, and I think we're more in the middle part right now. And you're going to have people who've heard, and you're going to have people who've heard and are going to go, man, I don't believe it. And then it seems those who have suffering friends and relatives are the ones who really respond. And we're coming up on him feeding the 5,000, which is going to cause some ripples too. Other thoughts?
Well, this in here says he told him to leave, for the girl has not died,
Yeah.
but is asleep.
Yeah.
So evidently she was dead?
Well, Shauna, read that last part of Luke where it says spirit returned to her.
Her spirit returned, and at once she stood up.
Yeah. So I would think spirit returning sure indicates spirit separated from the body. But I think Jesus, we're talking about Jesus, and so he can say sleep, because to him that is. It's a statement of who he is and his power. It would be like in some of his healings that, remember, he said, is it easier to say, take up your pallet and walk, or your sins are forgiven? He was demonstrating he had power whichever way you look at it, and that he was Lord and he could say forgiveness. That would be, I think, another statement of his power. To him, they're not dead. To people like us, she was. But not to Jesus.
Well, and he probably didn't want to say, I'm going to raise her from the dead. He was just going to wake her up. But
Well, yeah.
they wouldn't know that.
Yeah, and because he doesn't want this talked about. Now, he does take James and John and Peter with him to do it, but has everybody else leave the room. So it's not a time yet for him to be proclaiming that he's raising the dead. Lazarus will be that time, and that'll be close to the end, and that will be one just outside of Jerusalem, where the rulers have sent the Jewish leaders have sent their minions to spy on him, and they're going to come back and say he did it. And it's just gonna drive them crazy. Other thoughts? Mark 5:24-34. The woman's healed by touching the clothes of Jesus. I always thought this one is just all of them do this to me when I read them. I'm one of those people that prefer to read versus somebody speaking it, because I can imagine it stimulates my imagination, and I just imagine Jesus being thronged by people, and here's somebody who's so suffered so much that he's her only hope, and she's going to touch his garment, which we know she does. So Matthew 9:20 through 22, Terry.
Yep.
Okay, and Luke 8:43 through 48. Brent? And who wants to read for us Mark 5:24 through 34? Christy, go ahead.
And he went off with him, and a large crowd was following him and pressing in on him. A woman who had had a hemorrhage for 12 years and had endured much at the hands of many physicians, and had spent all that she had and was not helped at all, but rather had grown worse. After hearing about Jesus, she came up to the crowd behind him and touched his cloak. For she thought, if I just touch his garment, I will get well. Immediately the flow of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of her affliction. Immediately Jesus, perceiving in himself that the power proceeding from him had gone forth, turned around in the crowd and said, Who touched my garments? And his disciples said to him, You see the crowd pressing in on you, and you say, Who touched me? And he looked around to see the woman who had done this. But the woman, fearing and trembling, aware of what had happened to her, came and fell down before him and told him the whole truth. And he said to her, Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your affliction.
Terry?
And a woman who had been suffering from a hemorrhage for 12 years came up behind him, touched the fringe of his cloak. For she was saying to herself, If I only touch his garment, I will get well. But Jesus, turning and seeing her, said, Daughter, take courage, your faith has made you well. And at once the woman was made well.
Luke 8:43 and 48 through 48.
And a woman having an issue of blood 12 years, which had spent all her living upon physicians, neither could be healed of any, came behind him and touched the border of his garment, and immediately her issue of blood stanched. And Jesus said, Who touched me? When all denied, Peter and they that were with him said, Master, the multitude thronged thee and pressed thee, and sayest thou, Who touched me? And Jesus said, Somebody hath touched me, for I perceive that virtue is gone out of me. And when the woman saw that she was not hid, she came trembling, and falling down before him, she declared unto him before all the people for what cause she had touched him, and how she was healed immediately. And he said unto her, Daughter, be of good comfort, thy faith hath made thee whole. Go in peace.
So how much suffering for this woman?
12 years, that's
12 years,
All she had,
spent all she
had
had.
everything she had.
and nobody helped her.
They couldn't do it. Yeah, they couldn't. They just, it's beyond the physicians of that time. Might have been beyond physicians of this time for all we know. But was that all her suffering? The constant bleeding, hemorrhaging?
Evidently she was lost.
Lost, yeah. She's also, if she's a Jewish woman, can she participate in anything of the synagogue or the temple? No, because she's constantly unclean. That would just, and having been raised Jewish woman, that had to just make the suffering from the physical part alone intensify. She could not participate, and yet when she heard about Jesus, her faith was strong. I just need to touch his garment and I'm going to be okay. And here's his own people around him, and he said, Who touched me? And they go, What do you mean? Well, he's the Son, he's God, and he knows who touched him, and power went out for the healing, which he expresses. They're still kind of clueless, I think, about it at this time. They're still kind of clueless about a number of things. but he's bringing them along slowly but surely. It's quite a miracle to just, and then the poor woman, after he says who did it, and she's not going to be able to hide, she comes shaking. I guess she was shaking because, well, what if he makes it go back? What if I've done something wrong? But she hadn't. And his words of compassion and comfort to her are amazing. And the healing is amazing. Questions or thoughts? Miracle after miracle with Mark, yes? Event after event. Remember, we're marching very quickly towards, Mark's got two goals. He wants to get to where Peter confesses that Jesus is the Christ, because everything Mark's writing about are the evidence that proves he's the Messiah. And he wants to get to the centurion who says, surely this was the Son of God. Again, the evidence for the centurion in that moment was overwhelming. He got it. This is the Son of God. And that's Mark's point. All this evidence, all these events happening rapidly. How many times have we ran into the words immediately in Latin in this little section here? Over and over. Chapter 6. A bit of a rough spot, if you want to view it that way. Verses 1 through 6. Jesus is having a hard time. Well, he's having a hard time with a lot of people believing him, but his own family and his own city is going to have a tough time. But he states what the problem is. Matthew 13, 54 through 58, Terry?
What number?
Matthew 13,
Okay.
verse 54 through 58. And then someone want to read Mark 6, 1 through 6. Go ahead, Riley.
Jesus went out from there and came into his hometown, and his disciples followed him. When the Sabbath came, he began to teach in the synagogue, and the many listeners were astonished, saying, "Where did this man get these things? And what is this wisdom given to him? And such miracles as these performed by his hands? Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, and the brother of James, and Joseph, and Judas, and Simon? Are not his sisters here with us?" And they took offense at him. Jesus said to them, "A prophet is not without honor except in his hometown, and among his own relatives, and in his own household." And he could do no miracle there except that he laid his hands on a few sick people and healed them. And he wondered at their unbelief, and he was going around the villages teaching.
Matthew 13, 54, 58.
54.
Yeah, verse 54 through 58.
He came to his hometown, began teaching them in the synagogue, so that they were astonished and said, "Where did this man get this wisdom and these miraculous powers? Is not this the carpenter's son? Is not his mother called Mary, and his brothers James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas? And his sisters, are they not all with us? Where then did this man get all these things?" And they took offense at him. But Jesus said to them, "A prophet is not without honor except in his hometown and in his own household." And he did not do many miracles there because of their unbelief.
So, what's this section teaching us? This section answers a major false doctrine that's been perpetuated for many, many, many years. And this section has some things to tell us about him.
But he has brothers and sisters.
Yeah, that's the big false doctrine that blows up, is he has brothers and sisters, and everybody said it plainly. There was no, they knew who his family was. Kind of blows a hole in the perpetual virginity of Mary that the Catholic Church teaches. Of course, they all have some way to dance around it, but they're pretty plain, actually. He has brothers and sisters. There was one of the apocryphal type gospels that I read one time. The ones that there's a number of gospels like of Peter, of Thomas, and others that are not accepted as inspired. One of them had a story about Jesus when he was like a child playing with other children, and they made some clay animals, and he made his clay animals come to life and beat up the others. That's not in character with Jesus or God at all. It's kind of how you know that that gospel really isn't an inspired thing. Someone's making up stories, trying to fill in some stories about his youth. We don't know much about his youth. We know he became a carpenter, which for them in that period of time, it would be building furniture, roofs, door frames, that kind of thing. He was probably pretty good at it. Has his brothers, though, before this, can you remember if his brothers came looking for him to take hold of him, remember? Back a few chapters or two?
That they came to see him.
Yeah, because they thought he'd gone crazy, and they're going to come put their hands on him and take him back home and help him get straightened out. How do you think someone's crazy when he's healing people? But they can't explain it. This is, you know, you've heard me tell this before, and it's recorded history. When Columbus landed, first landed on the shores of what would become Cuba, yeah. When he first landed there, and went ashore, the natives could not see his sailing ships, literally. And the priest that he had with him wrote this down in their books and in their diaries, that it was amazing. They could not see the ships until they were taught there was such a thing as the ships. It was outside of their belief system. Literally did not see it. I can't help but wonder if something like that might have been happening with these folks. Here you have miracles being done that have never been done. Yes, you had some of the prophets in the past who did raise the dead here or there and did do some things that are amazing, but this is just incredible what Jesus is doing, beyond anything the prophets before him had done. And it's outside of their belief system. Even his own disciples, he's having to bring them along and educate them and actually teach them what it means that he's the Son of God, so they can accept it, who he is. So his family went to take him into custody. What was said when he was told his mom and his brothers were outside wanting to talk to him? Do you remember?
Who is my mother and brother?
Yeah, who is it?
All of them around.
Yeah, those who do my will. That's who's my mother and brother, or father and sisters. Those who do God's will. Questions or thoughts? He did some healing, obviously there, but their faith got in the way. Actually, their lack of faith got in a big way. Unbelief. Yeah, right.
And so how does that work? Because in Mark it says he could do no miracle there except, but he could. He's God.
He could,
So,
but many times the miracles that he's doing are based on the other person who's receiving the miracle, their faith. Okay, he could do the miracle anyway, but he's accentuating their faith. Like the woman who touched his garment, she had faith that could heal, and that's been a connection between many of the miracles. Not all of them.
No, because the dead didn't have faith. They were just dead.
The dead didn't have faith?
But faith is a two-way street. When it comes to believing in Christ, you have to have the faith to do what he wants you to do and accept it, or it's unbelief.
It's unbelief, yeah. And then you're right, the dead that he raised, some were believers, some were not. The little girl we just read about, obviously not. Lazarus would be.
Her father had faith.
Her father had faith, yeah. And remember when they lowered the fella down through the roof, where they had to do that? Those fellas had the faith that caused that healing. So there's times where he does heal, or does do a raise of the dead of somebody who doesn't have the faith, and there's times when he emphasizes the faith. He does both. Does that help answer your question, Rylan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because even the one that he does raise when they're doing the funeral procession, it was her only son, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And he just felt compassion for her.
For her, yeah. And he reached up and touched him. The widow from Nain, yeah. I think what we're seeing here with the description of the lack of faith, miracles were still done. But also the thing Jesus said, a prophet is not, he's without honor in his own hometown. We know him. He built this. He's just a regular person. That gets said of people who become famous. Then they come back to their hometown. Well, wait a minute. We saw you. I used to babysit you. You can't be the president of the United States. You know, that kind of thing happens.
Yeah.
Did they forget about him talking with all the scribes and Pharisees when he was 12 years old, and they was astonished at him then
Yeah.
for his wisdom?
Yeah.
So evidently they'd forgotten all about that, or nobody ever told them about it, or
Yeah,
Yeah.
very possible nobody told them.
So because of the community's lack of faith, he didn't stay and do a lot of miracles. He did some. The 12 get sent out. Matthew 6, 7 through 13. Who would like to read, not Matthew, Mark 6, 7 through 13. Who wants to read Mark for us? Riley will. Matthew 10. This is kind of a breakup here, Terry. Matthew 10:1 and then 5 through 15.
okay?
All right, and Luke 9, 1 through 6. Shauna? Go ahead, Riley.
And he summoned the 12 and began to send them out in pairs, and gave them authority over the unclean spirits. He instructed them that they should take nothing for their journey, except a mere staff, and bread, no bag, no money, no belt, but to wear sandals. And he added, do not put on 2 tunics. He said to them, wherever you enter a house, stay there until you leave town. Any place that does not receive you or listen to you as you go out from there, shake the dust off the soles of your feet for a testimony against them. And they went out and preached that men should repent. And they were casting out many demons, and were anointing with oil many sick people and healing them.
Terry?
Jesus summoned his 12 disciples, gave them authority over unclean spirits, to cast them out, to heal every kind of disease and every kind of sickness. These 12 Jesus sent out after instructing them, do not go in the way of the Gentiles, do not enter any city of the Samaritans, but rather go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And as you go, preach, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, cast out demons. Freely you receive, freely give. Do not acquire gold or silver or copper for your money belt, or a bag for your journey, or even 2 coats or sandals, or a staff, for the worker is worthy of his support. And whatever city or village you enter, inquire who is worthy in it, and stay at his house until you leave that city. As you enter the house, give it your blessing. If the house is worthy, give it your blessing of peace, but if it is not worthy, take back your blessing of peace. Whoever does not receive you, nor heed your words, as you go out of that house or that city, shake the dust off your feet. Truly I say to you, it will be more tolerable for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that city.
Luke 9, 1 through 6. Shauna?
When Jesus had called the 12 together, he gave them power and authority to drive out all demons and to cure diseases. And he sent them out to preach the kingdom of God and to heal the sick. He told them, take nothing for the journey, no staff, no bag, no bread, no money, no extra tunic. Whatever house you enter, stay there until you leave that town. If people do not welcome you, shake the dust off your feet when you leave their town as a testimony against them. So they set out and went from village to village, preaching the gospel and healing people everywhere.
What you think?
Well, he gave his disciples power to
Yeah,
heal, to
this
raise
is
the
a
dead.
pretty big step, because now it's not just him. He's given them the 12 anyway this time. He's going to do the same for 70 so later. Sends them out by 2, which makes sense for support with each other. And now they're out preaching to repent, the kingdoms of heaven's at hand. And they're healing the sick, casting out demons, and raising the dead themselves. Huge step, prepping them for what's going to come when he's gone and the Great Commission is given. But also, it's a strategic move because now you've got 7 groups of people, Jesus and then his 12 in groups of 2, going around the countryside and keeping whatever interest there is about him and what he's saying and the fact that the kingdom's coming, that it's at hand. You're going to keep that on a much higher level with this kind of help. And then when he sends the 70, same thing again. So it's strategically well done.
Besides, it has to help their confidence in believing who he is to be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it gives them experience at doing it before he leaves as well. But yes, Becky, that would set their confidence way on their faith. And the faith isn't just understanding who he is. You might be able to intellectually get to a point where you know that Jesus is God and he is the Son of God and he fulfills these prophecies. But there's a step in there in faith where you go from the evidence to in your heart trusting that that's who he is. And that word faith literally carries with it the word trust in the Greek, all the Greek translations of the word that's used. Pistos and a number of other variations of the noun. And it's about not just what you know, but you put your complete trust in what you know. And that's a step that a lot of people don't make. Questions or thoughts? So, Herod thinks Jesus is John the Baptist. That's our next set of verses. Mark 6:14 through 29. Who wants to read that for us? Anyone? Becky will read that for us. Terry, Matthew 14, 1 through 12.
Okay.
And Luke 9, 7 and 9. Shauna? Okay. Go ahead, Becky.
And King Herod heard of it, for his name had become well known, and people were saying, John the Baptist has risen from the dead, and therefore these miraculous powers are at work in him. But others were saying he is Elijah, and others were saying he is a prophet, like one of the prophets of old. But when Herod heard of it, he kept saying, John whom I beheaded has risen. For Herod himself had sent and had John arrested and bound in prison on account of Herodias, the wife of his brother Philip, because he had married her. For John had been saying to Herod, it is not lawful for you to have your brother's wife. And Herodias had a grudge against him and wanted to kill him, and could not do so. For Herod was afraid of John, knowing that he was a righteous and holy man, and kept him safe. And when he heard him, he was very perplexed, but he used to enjoy listening to him. And the strategic day came when Herod, on his birthday, gave a banquet for his lords and military commanders and the leading men of Galilee. And when the daughter of Herodias herself came in and danced, she pleased Herod and his dinner guests. And the king said to her, ask me for whatever you want, and I will give it to you. And he swore to her, whatever you ask of me, I will give it to you, up to half of my kingdom. And she went out and said to her mother, what shall I ask for? And she said, the head of John the Baptist. And immediately she came in haste before the king and asked, saying, I want you to give me right away the head of John the Baptist on a platter. And although the king was very sorry, yet because of his oaths and because of his dinner guests, he was unwilling to refuse her. And immediately the king sent an executioner and commanded him to bring back his head. And he went and beheaded him in the prison, and brought his head on a platter and gave it to the girl, and the girl gave it to her mother. And when his disciples heard about this, they came and took away his body and laid it in a tomb.
Terry?
At that time, Herod the Tetrarch heard the news about Jesus and said to his servants, This is John the Baptist. He has risen from the dead. That is why miraculous powers are at work in him. For when Herod had John arrested, he bound him, put him in prison because of Herodias, the wife of his brother Philip. For John had been saying to him, it is not lawful for you to have her. Although Herod wanted to put him to death, he feared the crowd because they regarded John as a prophet. But when Herod's birthday came, his daughter Herodias danced before them and pleased Herod, so much that he promised with an oath to give her whatever she asked. Having been prompted by her mother, she said, give me here on a platter the head of John the Baptist. Although he was grieved, the king commanded it to be given because of his oaths and because of his dinner guests. He sent and had John beheaded in the prison. His head was brought on a platter, given to the girl, and she brought it to her mother. His disciples came, took away the body, buried it, and they went out and reported it to Jesus.
Luke, Sean?
Now Herod the Tetrarch heard about all that was going on, and he was perplexed because some were saying that John had been raised from the dead. Others said Elijah had appeared, and still others that one of the prophets of long ago had come back to life. But Herod said, I beheaded John. Who then is this I hear such things about? And he tried to see him.
The first few verses here in Mark, where it talks about so many people trying to figure out who Jesus is. You know, now that John has been beheaded, well, this must be John raised from the dead, or he's Elijah. Human beings, we just want to try to make sense of everything, you know? And they're trying to make sense of everything Jesus is doing. Of course, the ultimate sense is he's God's son, and he's fulfilling all the prophecies that you all have been waiting on to be fulfilled. John gets his head beheaded. Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Because he had been telling Herod that he couldn't have his brother's wife.
Which is interesting. What did Jesus tell us about the law of Moses and marriage and divorce?
That if his brother was dead, that he could take her as a wife. Was Philip dead?
No.
No.
Well,
No.
that's a good reason why he's telling me he couldn't do it.
Well, remember what Jesus says, that Moses permitted them to hand a divorce for any reason at all. And they did.
But you weren't permitted to take your brother's wife.
What's that?
You weren't permitted to take your brother's wife that way because you exposed his nakedness.
That's exactly right. And I can't remember what the little hitch is here, but she is his niece as well. That Herod family had a whole bunch of incestuous relationships, and this was one of them going on. And I think they did have a Roman divorce, but this was his brother's wife, and unless he had died and you're doing the right of the brother to raise up someone with the brother's name, you're not to have her. That's out. John told him the truth in his preaching. You can't have her lawfully. It's not okay for you to have her. This is not okay with God. You know, it said, and Herod said he was afraid of John. John was telling him the truth. But yet, what else did it say?
He feared the crowds.
Yeah, and he liked listening to him as well. I imagine John had more to say than just the issue. And when John did bring up the issue, I'm sure Herod went and talked to Herodias about it, and she didn't like that at all. He's in the way of what I want and my life, and we got to get him out of here. She really, to have your daughter go and ask for his head in that situation. Of course, Herod was foolish to make such a pledge in front of everybody, but that as well as he did. Thoughts or questions? Next week, we'll pick up with the 12 coming back and reporting things that were done. What is the date next week?
What's today?
The
I
third.
don't know. Today is the 27th.
It's the third.
Okay. Where did my pencil go?
And it's no longer 5, it'll be 6-3.
Thanks. I tell you, this year has gone so fast.
Yes,
Boom.
it has.
number 591.
She's just too cute.
'Tis the grandest thing in the ages run. 'Tis the grandest thing for a mortal tongue. 'Tis the grandest thing that the world has sung. Our God is able to deliver thee. He is able to deliver thee. He is able to deliver thee. Though by sin oppressed, go to him for rest. Our God is able to deliver thee. 'Tis the grandest thing in the earth or main. 'Tis the grandest thing for a mortal strain. 'Tis the grandest thing, tell the world again. Our God is able to deliver thee. He is able to deliver thee. He is able to deliver thee. Though by sin oppressed, go to him for rest. Our God is able to deliver thee. 'Tis the grandest thing, let the tidings roll to the guilty heart, to the sinful soul. Look to God in faith, he will make thee whole. Our God is able to deliver thee. He is able to deliver thee. He is able to deliver thee. Though by sin oppressed, go to him for rest. Our God is able to deliver thee.
Josh, do you want to dismiss us?
Our Father in heaven, Lord Almighty God, Lord, so much for letting us be here today. Thank you for the freedoms that you do give us in this country, that you would help us not to waste our opportunity to use them freely. Thank you so much for getting Bridget and grandchildren safety as they travel. Thank you, Father, that you always do watch over us, give us safety in all that we do, all the things behind the scenes that we don't understand. That we will go from here and we will keep your faith and put your will above love.
Well, Bridget, glad to be home. Is it still home? Is it?
Simon said that the whole nation is coming here. I think
How are you?
I'm not even holding.
I know why.
How's
Why he
life?
likes
Good.
Dixon.
And what kind of,
There's someone in the family with blonde
what
hair.
kind of income are you thinking you
Like
have?
he has.
You don't like me.
Please, please.
Well, you don't have blonde hair.
Yes, I do.
Like brown. Did you have one laugh? What did you do? Did you make a preparation? That's it. Hold that. We're gonna go in there.
Why, David, work you do hard?
Yeah.
Do fence?
Stairs, I think, that's in
We can park that.
I see.
Hey, you go up there?
No, we were supposed to meet there at lunch.
There's always tomorrow.
Did he stay up there, Sage?
Yeah, you did.
Did he?
You were supposed to tell Becky that.
Because I knew. No.
Marta
Just
stayed.
figured if they had to go back, he said he was gonna stay.
He didn't tell you whether he was staying or not?
Yeah, and he said if they had to go back to work, he would stay.
Like Stacy,
We got one here too. Fence that went down.
Oh, down the hill from the top there.
Yeah, it goes down like 50 yards. It goes up.
I'm smiling at people as long as I can touch you, Mom.
Well, when you get down to the cabin, you'll really enjoy that fence that's up behind the cabin. It goes through all them quakies. It's always fell down over the fence. That's a lot of fun in there.
Did you see the guy?
What?
He's happy he can cruise now. He wasn't too excited about sitting on a plane the whole time.
We just recount those rewired.
Was the plane crowded?
Did you make those other boys work?
Yeah, there's just one.
Everybody wearing a mask?
And they were.
They said it was mandatory, but.
And we'll forget.
A lot of people were.
We saw they didn't sleep, but they already did their queues.
I hate masks. They say it won't fog up your glasses. They always do. Yeah, but it's still, still fog up.
Wide and snivel.
Well, the kind
You know,
I wear
grandson of Alan.
basically construction masks. And those have the nose edge thing, but still.
And you notice, yeah, his grandpa doesn't have much good to say about it.
Wood, they take a break every 5 minutes.
Because I'm used to wearing those when I do.
Marshall just likes to stand around on the shovel.
Unless I do it when I mow the grass during allergy season.
When your own grandpa says you're worthless.
You're pretty worthless.
Point to your face and you say, oh no, I'm not, I'm great. Well, nobody wants to work with you.
You got one of those trophies for showing up every time, huh?
Actually, he was a stud athlete.
Well, I lived in South Carolina for a while.
He's been spoiled rotten all his life.
Out of Fort Mill, which was near
You know.
Charlotte.
When he came back, they did.
I've probably been through that.
I think grandma's one of the twisted tail off the way they were. I mean,
She's still just a little bit in mine. But she's just gonna be a little girl.
She's busy.
Well, most of what I know is South Carolina, from where I was living in.
Yes, I've been eating the lettuce wraps.
The area around Greenville, Greenville and Darlington.
Or whatever, so I've been eating lettuce
And
wraps.
that's where this
I'm gonna be gone, well, just maybe Sunday, yeah, Sunday. We'll use up the rest of this the next couple days. And well, it's already, what's that? Oh.
You guys kind of messed a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
He's got him.
You gonna catch him, man?
Do you think his her brother's gonna outgrow her?
He's in size 4 now, and she's in size 5. Yeah. And he weighs more than the type of weight he is, so.
You gonna take him fishing this trip?
If he lets me.
He didn't like you, did
Emma's
go fishing with he? He'd come by and get a 4-wheeler for a little ride, he'll love you then.
This man doesn't do well.
You can just take it up the driveway and just sit.
You probably wouldn't let him on a 4-wheeler.
Well, he's very fine.
You gonna catch him?
It just takes him a few days to warm up sometimes.
Look out there.
Elliot, we're in the
You went down, way out. Slow down. Move your foot. Move that foot.
Buddy wants to move faster than his feet can help it.
Oh,
She lets me know when she's cooking the steak.
Oh, I'm sure of that. Mom, he needs a spanking.
Yeah, well,
A good day.
Hi, Mr. Logan. See you later, Gator. See you later, Gator.
Bye, Miss Emma.
So glad you're here. You've made your granny and papa's day, you know it?
You've made their day.
Yeah.
They are so tickled. Just box his ears, we started talking like that. Straight
You excited for the babies?
yeah.
Spend time with them?
And
Doing all right?
then I-
Good night, Peggy.
Tired.
Heard you got a job, huh?
Yeah.
All right,
Just
all right.
mowing and weeding.
Oh, goody. Keep you in shape.
Green.
Yeah.
A little bit. It's a lot of just like standing and,
For the town?
yeah. Yeah, just.
Government job already.
I know, it.
Uh,
It's terrible to get into a worthless city. I mean,
Hooked into the government out of right the bat.
right off the bat.
I just can't start cleaning until she calls me because she has to have specific numbers and I'm like, tired. She's cleaning all the rooms by herself. And she's stressed. And then I have an interview with, do you know Sarah Peterson? She has a son, who's in a wheelchair, he's about 8 years old. He can't do things on his
yeah.
own. She finally got back with me and goes to work Friday and go to things with her. So I'll do that full time since we were clean. And then I put in for Yuri to do the building.
Oh,
So we'll see if I get that. I don't know.
anything's good, huh?
My mom paid me a clean house day because I'm so desperate for a job. She's like, here, I'll just speed it along.
You're so desperate for a job? Well, Christie.
She's got a couple of things going or whatever. I'd have it
Well,
going,
you're
but I don't
in.
have any money.
You take credit?
I could loan you the.
I'll tell you what,
I don't know. Did you
I'll
get
give you a reference.
A reference?
A reference.
Okay, I'll put you down.
No, I'll give you one if you come clean.
Oh, I'll
Just
literally
stop
do
it.
anything. I don't care.
I'm
I'll take a
teasing.
dog poop. I don't care. You guys have a good week.
One,
You
I
have
can
a
hold on for
good
good.
week.
Hey.
Like the Lord's Supper's prayers and just go with that little thing closing. Memphis.
Well, that'd probably be okay. Brent will probably ask you when he wants you to do something. And we were thinking more kind of filling when Tyler's not here, or having kind of back him up. But we can talk about how to do it too. If we want to sit down sometime and have a discussion. We
Yeah.
practice.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Well, tell me when you want to.
Okay, will do.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Do I have to? You guys have a good week. Yep. it said.